Welcome back to part 2 of Ace Carino's top 40 favorite movies of all time. I'm Ace Carino again. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen the first part of the top 40, my top 40 favorite movies of all time. So now let's continue on with the rest of the countdown. Now, everybody's gonna say like, man, why you got this movie on here? This movie sucks. This is one of the worst movies of all time. Number 20 is Super Mario Brothers. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how bad this movie is. I don't care how bad people bash this movie. I enjoy this movie very, very much. I was a little kid when I watched this. I was probably 10 years old when I watched it. I'm a big fan of the Mario Brothers. I played all the Mario Brothers games, especially up to this point. This right here, as much as it could have been a little better, but I don't really care. I love this movie. I love the characters. I love the acting, despite how bad the acting is. This definitely like a guilty pleasure in a way, but I really love the Mario Brothers movie. I can watch this movie all day, all night, any day of the week. You tell me to, I can put this movie on. I can watch this. And if anybody hates this movie, I don't know what to tell y'all. Y'all don't got no good taste. I know it's not the best movie of all time, but it's enjoyable. It's a guilty pleasure. Hey, Pause. Yes, Pause is finally in the room. He's probably heard me talking. Hey, can I see? Just a second, y'all. Come here. Come here. See? Yeah, Pause. He's finally up. Okay, you're good now. He's a heavy baby. All right, next is I might need some more Pepsi. Next up, number 19 is a tie between Ace Ventura Pet Detective and Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. When I was a kid in the 90s, I was a big fan of Jim Carrey. All his movies, especially on in living color. You can ask everybody. You can ask my parents. You can ask my sisters, my friends, my cousins, my family members. They all know I love Jim Carrey because I was a big fan of him, especially his acting. Pause. What are you doing? A big fan of his acting. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective was my first movie I ever saw him in, and then I started watching like in living color when they was showing reruns. But his acting, his mannerisms, especially on the second one, like all his movies, I love Jim Carrey movies. Like I can do good Jim Carrey impressions. I can do like all of his his voice acting. I could do pretty much anything. But anyway, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, wild movie. Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, wild movie. And the hell, it's not in here. Somebody's in trouble. Anyway, number 18. Here's another funny ass movie that'll make you laugh your ass off. Beavers and Butthead Do America. Now, back in the 90s, when I was in my tween years, in my teenage years, I was heavy on Beavers and Butthead because those two freaking hilarious out of their stupidity. And then whenever Do America came out, I rented it from Blockbuster, and oh man, that was funny as shit. Oh my god. If you ain't seen this movie, you better find this movie. This movie right here will have you laughing from start to finish because they're such freaking idiots. Speaking of other idiots, number 17. Sorry about that. I had to get some more Pepsi, and my wife was messaging me about taking out the pork chops and Italian sausage for tonight. Anyway, let's move on. Number 17. Yep, number 17. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This movie right here, this is probably my favorite Johnny Depp movie. This movie right here is a freaking trip. It'll make you think like, what the fuck is going on? Excuse my language. But I got my wife to watch this movie. She said, that guy is on some shit. Yes. It's based on a book based on a real life event between this dude right here and his assistant, his attorney. And I'm pretty sure everybody already seen my movie review on this on this movie like a couple years ago. So this is one of my favorite movies. When I bought this movie, I watched it every night for like 3 weeks straight. So I know this movie like the back of my hand. I can recite this movie through and through. So if you haven't ever seen this movie, definitely check it out. It's very trippy, and you'll leave you saying, that dude is on some shit. Yeah, he really was. Speaking of being on some shit, number 16, Pulp Fiction. I'm big on Quentin Tarantino movies like Reservoir Dogs and Four Rooms. But Pulp Fiction is one of my favorites because it's funny, it's engaging, it's got action, it's got some comedy, but not in a... It's very subtle with comedy. Like, it's not like intentional comedy, but it's funny in that serious way. And it definitely leaves you thinking and makes you... Is this upside down? Yes, it is. Holy crap. I'm just now realizing it. My nephew probably was watching it. But anyway, yeah, there we go. That's better. Pulp Fiction, one of my favorite movies. If you ain't never seen it, check it out. It's got Samuel L. Jackson, it's got John Travolta, Bruce Willis, and a few other characters and actors that normally played in like Tarantino movies during his early days. But if you ain't even seen this movie, check it out. I highly recommend it. Very good movie. Speaking of another very good movie that I never heard of until like a few years later, and I've bought it off eBay. Where we at? Number 15, Rock and Rolla. Oh man, if you wanted a guy movie, this is definitely a guy movie. It's got action, it's got somewhat suspense. It is definitely the kind of movie that makes you think, and it keeps you thinking throughout the movie, like what the hell's going on and all that stuff. But I highly recommend this movie out of any other movie that's on here. If you ain't never seen this, you got to see this movie. It'll leave you laughing. It'll leave you going like, oh shit. I got my dad to watch this, and he said he really enjoyed this movie. So, yeah, if my dad's like big on action movies too as well. But if he says a movie's good, and this is definitely a good movie. I highly recommend getting it. Number 14 is Out for Justice. This is one of the movies that my dad and my uncle would say, like, all right, boys, this is your initiation to becoming a man type thing. So me and my cousins, my dad and my uncles, we would watch this movie, and yeah, this is definitely not the kind of movie you want your kids watching until they're like at least in their teenage years. But when we watched it was holy crap. It was funny as hell. The remarks that Steven Seagal would make. I'm gonna tell your brother I'm gonna cut off his head, piss down his throat. Fuck you. And just all the stuff like talk about, especially the bar scene when he's fighting all the guys. Oh man, my brain's kind of scatterbrain right now because this is one of the movies like I can't really pick what the whole movie's my favorite pick because I can't even begin where to even talk about like my favorite scenes in the whole movie. The whole movie's like my favorite scene. Everything from the bar scene to him fighting the dudes in the deli to just a smart ass remarks. You know why your brother's not here? Why is that? Because he's a chicken shit fucking pussy asshole. And then when he finally gets Richie and he finally kills him, he said, "That's for Bobby." Someone's gotta make that into a shirt. That's for Bobby. Yeah, you ain't seen this movie? Definitely check it out. One of Steven Seagal's best movies, Out for Justice. And number 13, just like with Out for Justice being like, okay, boys, y'all gather around here. It's time for y'all to watch some man movies. Here's another one. It's Harlem Nights. As much as Out for Justice was more of like the action scene for it, this one is definitely like the comedy movie. This one was this is my favorite Eddie Murphy movie, and this movie is just crazy, hilarious, outrageous through and through, with Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and Red Fox throughout in the movie. I could recite this movie through and through, and me and my cousins would just make each other laugh with this movie, especially with Arsenio Hall's scene, and especially with the scene with Vera. This is a wild movie. I love this movie. And number 12 is True Romance. I never really I heard of this movie when I was a teenager, but I never saw it. I actually thought it was gonna be like one of them chick flicks, like a love story chick flick, because it's called True Romance. So I thought it was gonna be like a chick flick, but until I did some research on it, and I found that it had Christian Slater, and it pretty much has an all-star cast. And I like Christian Slater movies, and this was actually Quentin Tarantino's first movie he ever written, but he didn't direct it. It was directed by Tony Scott. I love Tony Scott movies. But True Romance, this is probably one of the most underrated movies I've ever watched. I love this movie. I can watch this movie again and again. It's just that good. It's crazy. It's got like drug use in it, but I can't really stress it enough. It's a good movie. If you ain't ever watched it, you gotta find this movie. Either way, you're gonna enjoy. You will enjoy True Romance. Despite the name of the movie sounding like a chick flick, True Romance is anything but a chick flick. It's definitely it's a guy movie, and it's also a couples movie, like an action couples movie type thing, if that makes any sense. Next up, number 11 is Hagrid. How can I say this? When I was a teenager, I was big. Me and my friends in high school were big on CKY and Jackass. I wasn't much of a skateboarder because I was too tall to be on a skateboard. But I loved the BMX. But I rode skateboards when I was a teenager, but I didn't do no tricks because I was so tall, so I couldn't really get my footing on them. But I did record I did record my friends doing tricks on skateboards, and my friend of mine had a skate park in his home backyard that he made out of from a fucking home ec class. Was it home ec? It's been a long time. But anyway, Hagrid. When I first saw this, this was freaking hilarious. This is a hilarious movie with everybody from the CKY crew, and Bam Margera and Ryan Dunn and Deco and Rab himself and Rake Yawn. You ain't never seen this movie, you gotta find this movie. It's crazy. And it's sad that Ryan Dunn passed away like a couple years ago. But this was definitely one of the funniest movies I've ever watched. And I can recite this movie like through and through. So yeah. Next up, number 10, Grandma's Boy. I watched this since it came out like almost 11, 12 years ago, to be exact. Man, we're freaking old. But I didn't know if I was going to enjoy Grandma's Boy because this was during the time when I didn't like movies with guys that lived with their parents or their grandmas or whatever. So I didn't think that it was going to be a funny movie or a movie that I was going to that would catch my appeal. Especially with the 40-year-old virgin came out, and I hated movies like that. But Grandma's Boy, a friend of mine told me, dude, you're going to love this. So I watched it, and you're right. I love this movie. And I actually watched this movie a couple of nights ago. Me and my wife love this movie as well. So this is one of the movies where when we're trying to go to sleep or something, we just play it we play in the bedroom until we fall asleep. But when we got nothing to watch, when all else fails, we just put on Grandma's Boy. So yeah. If you ain't never seen the Grandma's Boy, I highly recommend it. It's a hilarious movie. You'll enjoy it. Number 9 is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now, when I first saw the commercials of this, I was like, I had to watch this movie. And sure enough, this is one of my favorite movies because of the video game elements. Excuse me. The video game elements, the story between Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers with her, the 7 Evil Exes, this is hilarious. And this is one of the movies that I enjoy because it was with actors that were pretty much around my age group, because I was 25 when this movie came out. And nearly all the actors in this movie was around that age group. Pause, stop it. Yeah, he's scratching the carpet. I hate when he does that. But anyway, this is one of my favorite movies because like a lot of the actors are around the same, like around my age, and this is definitely the kind of movie, like if I ever made a movie, this will be around something like this. But anyway, I love this movie. You ain't never watched it, check it out. But I do say that it's got like one of the things that I kind of iffy about it was like the gay friend and everything. So if anything, like I thought it was hilarious, but I don't really condone things like that. But anyway, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, one of my favorite movies. I'd watch it again and again. If you ain't ever watched it, check it out. But it's might not be for everybody, but if you're into like video games and stuff like that, you gotta check it out. Number 8. It's another tie. Number 8 is tied between Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and yes, Batman and Robin. When I was growing up, I was big on Batman. I was also big on Spider-Man as well, but mostly with Batman because my cousin and one of my friends was like big on Batman back in the day, so they was like neck and neck with being Batman fans. So I was also a fan of it as well because of I really like Batman because he's not much of a superhero. He's more of like a detective, and I like stuff like that. He doesn't have much powers, but he has that mind to be a detective. So I like that, and all the villains in there are funny as hell. Like the one with the Joker is probably one of my favorites because Jack Nicholson just nails it as the Joker. And Batman Returns, I remember watching this when I was a kid, and we all liked it. Batman, we liked the Penguin was hilarious, and Catwoman, my youngest sister, liked her. So, and also this is one of the movies that I watched during Christmas time because they took place during Christmas time. But I recommend that one, and probably my favorite one out of all of the Batman movies is definitely Batman Forever. I don't care what anybody says because Jim Carrey is just hilarious, and especially when I was on my Jim Carrey kick, when he was, and especially the Riddler is my favorite Batman villain, and him being the Riddler, that was it. That was fucking it. Like I was huge on Jim Carrey. I was big on this movie, and I must have watched them. I must have wore that tape out. Now, as far as Batman and Robin goes, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't give a fuck what anybody says about how bad this movie is. I enjoy this movie. I don't care how bad the acting is. Movies like this needs to make a comeback. Like just the cheesy acting between everybody and everything. Like especially the ice puns. As much as everybody says that, I don't like Mr. Freeze because he does a bunch of ice puns and everything. That's what makes this movie hilarious. I like things like that. And yes, I also like the Dark Knight trilogy, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Return. Yeah, Dark Knight Rises. I like those movies, but given the choice between those and this, I would have to go with this. Because at least and especially with, we also have Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and because my wife's a big Superman fan, I'm big on Batman. So it was like she was always talking about, oh, Superman would whip Batman's ass anytime and everything. Like I'm like, oh yeah, let's just go watch the movie. And whenever Superman was like put in the ground and everything, she was crying in the theater, and I was like, baby, you know he's not dead. You know he's not dead. Because they gotta make the Justice League movie. You know he's not dead. But yeah, after leaving the theater after watching Batman vs. Superman, I told her I'd much rather watch Batman and Robin than Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. At least this movie makes me laugh. So yeah, I don't care what anybody says. Batman and Robin, I'd watch this movie, but my favorite Batman movie of all time has got to be Batman Returns. But as far as the other ones go, I really enjoyed them a lot. And I'm not talking shit about the Dark Knight trilogy. I really do enjoy them, especially the Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, the Heath Ledger Joker, because that was everywhere back in 2008. I remember that like it was yesterday. I even remember a time whenever The Dark Knight was like number 4 highest grossing movie of all time. But I'm saying I'm not shitting on those trilogies. I just prefer the old ones because at least those made me laugh. Speaking of making people laugh, here's another tie between his number 7. tie between both Ghostbuster movies. Excuse me. Now, I didn't own the Ghostbusters when I was a kid. I remember watching them a lot with my friends, especially my mom's best friend's sons, the same ones that we played Mario 3 with. They had both these movies, and whenever I go sleep over at their houses, we always watch these and like Ninja Turtles and a bunch of other things, among others. But they had like the Ghostbuster house, the Ghostbuster firehouse. They had the action figures. They had the car. They had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man plushie, and they even had the proton packs and the ghost trap. So when we were kids, we'd always play like Ghostbusters. We'd always watch it, and I think they had a few episodes of the real Ghostbusters on the old cartoon. But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, because growing up, I watched a lot of movies with actors like those, like with because back in the day when we were kids, we watched a lot of movies, but I did notice like a lot of the movies that we used to watch when we were kids, they all had like Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, John Candy, Rick Moranis, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, Johnny Depp, and Rodney Dangerfield movies, and Jim Carrey came like in the 90s. I'm talking like late 80s, early 90s type thing. But yeah, a lot of movies that we watched when we were kids, they all had those recurring actors. Oh, and Chevy Chase as well. But yeah, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I don't care what anybody says about Ghostbusters 2. I enjoy it a lot. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite movies. Now we're gonna number 6 is Enemy of the State. It's got Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, and it's got Gene Hackman and a number of other funny actors playing serious. But this is definitely one of the movies like it's not much of a comedy. It's definitely action thriller. Probably my favorite action thriller of all time. When I watched it when I was a teenager, and I don't know why this is like so high on the list, but it's one of the movies that I really enjoyed, and I would watch it over and over. But if you ain't never watched The Enemy of the State, it's definitely a good one. It's definitely like a departure from like the funny stuff that Will Smith would always do, that he's always known for. So yeah, if you ever want to see Will Smith do a serious role, check this movie out. Now we're getting into top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5 is Biodome. I watched this when I was a teenager, when I was 16 years old. The same friends that used to have the Ghostbusters movie, they turned me on to this movie, and this was, I don't care what anybody says, if you can say this movie's garbage and everything, but I say this is one of the funniest movies I ever watched. With Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. I love the shit out of this movie. I can recite this movie again like all the other movies. I can recite this movie. Man. Biodome is one of my favorite movies, and one of the funniest movies I ever watched. If you say the Biodome sucks because it's not funny, you have no sense of humor. If you say this movie sucks, you got no sense of humor. Number 4 is The Mask. Like I said, I was big on Jim Carrey. I loved all his movies, but probably the one Jim Carrey movie that I always loved when I was a little kid was The Mask. Everything that he did, like all his mannerisms, all the funny shit, I was pretty much doing that all when I was like 10 years old. Oh man, The Mask, one of my favorite movies. You ain't never seen it, check it out. I love it. Number 3. Now we're getting to top 3, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Probably one of the funniest movies I've ever watched. I love the Robin Hood fable. I also have Prince of Thieves. I have an old 1930s movie of Robin Hood, and I also got the Walt Disney Fox animated Robin Hood, and I have the Russell Crowe Robin Hood, but none of them compares to Men in Tights. This movie is hilarious. It's pretty much a spoof of Prince of Thieves, but when we was kids, we used to like freaking recite this movie a lot Oh man, it's funny as hell. Me and my wife will kill each other laughing because we always like take quotes from the movie and just make each other laugh and everything. But Robin Hood Men in Tights, very funny movie. Now it's getting serious right now. Now we're in number 2 and number 1. Now, first off, before I go further, number 1 and number 2, it keeps flipping back and forth between these two movies because when I was a little kid, I used to watch the shit out of these movies, and I watch them like back and forth, like back to back sometimes. Sometimes I watch more than the other, like, it's very polarizing because I can't really put them in like, what do I like more out of these two movies to put it like number 1 and number 2. But I'm just saying, like, for number 1, for the top 1 and top 2, it's tied between them because they're always rotating between them. And with that being said, the top 2, I can't say top 1, I gotta say top 2. Here we go. The top 2 favorite movies of all time is these 2 movies. Well, all 3 of these. Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future. I love these movies. Anybody can tell you, anybody that knows me for a long time knows that these are, I have a plushie of Roger Rabbit since I was 4 years old in my bedroom. Y'all have seen it twice on this channel. So you know how big I am on Roger Rabbit. And as far as Back to the Future goes, my wife bought me the Time Machine DeLorean for my 30th birthday. So, yeah. These 2 movies I watched a lot when I was a little kid. I love Roger Rabbit. I love the shit out of Back to the Future. All 3 of Back to the Future movies, I might add. But out of all the movies that I've ever watched, and as far back as I can remember, these 2 movies have stuck with me through. These movies have stood the test of time as being my favorite movies of all time. I know I'm saying all time, but everything. But yeah, these movies right here, nothing can top these. I don't know how anyone, not all these. You can take all these movies that I've just said right here, and they can't hold a candle to these 2 movies. As much as I love watching all the other ones, but these 2 right here, I put them on the pedestal of probably the best I've ever watched, and probably will never be topped. And it's definitely going to be a very tough order to top these movies because of how much of an impact they've had on my life. So yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future, top 2 best movies I've ever watched. Hope y'all enjoyed the countdown. I know I'm missing a lot of movies, but out of all these movies I got right here, these were like the top ones that I really enjoyed. So that's my top 40 top greatest movies I've ever watched of all time. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all took some notes down to if y'all ever want to watch these movies. I highly recommend all of the movies that I just mentioned. So that's it for right now. Stay tuned. I'll be continuing on with the Mario Marathon. So check you out next time. See you on the next episode.